Today we're checking out this incredible looper here. This is the Looper X by Sheeran Loopers, and it's absolutely crazy how much stuff this thing can do. It has 4 individual loop tracks. It has multiple different display modes and multiple different loop modes. It's got multiple different inputs and outputs and customizable routing for each input and output. It has a very large touchscreen display, and at the same time, a lot of this can be controlled with your feet. You have a built-in mixer. You have built-in effects that can be added to any of the tracks. Those are effects for guitars or drums or synths or vocals, and not just like a few effects. There's a ton of effects that are in this. You can either just go into this and do free looping, or you can pre-assign how long you want each loop to be. So 1 bar for track 1, 2 bars for track 2, so on and so forth. You have 5 gigabytes of internal storage for saving and loading multiple different loops, and you have an SD card if you need to expand it more. It even has an option for backing tracks, so you can loop for some songs and then do a few songs with backing tracks if you want. You have a click track that you can route just to like your headphones or in your monitor system, and it can also include a count in. You can control it with MIDI. You can connect it to your computer for transferring files, and the loops can be an unlimited length with up to 99 layers on each. As a musician who is a live looper, it's pretty impressive what this looper is capable of. My logic with this video is that if you're watching this video is that 1, you're either interested in the Looper X and you want to see what it's capable of, or 2, you've bought it and it's kind of overwhelming with everything that it can do. And in this video, I'm going to show you all the options that you get with the Sheeran Looper X, because there's so many ways that you can customize this to be what you want it to be. So use the timestamps down below if there's a specific topic that you're interested in. And if you're looking at a looper that's this advanced, I'm assuming you know the basics of looping. So in order to keep this video from being 2 hours long, I'm going to do some looping off screen if it doesn't apply to what we're talking about. But just remember, as I'm starting off, I'm going to show you how it works kind of by default. But remember, you can customize it in many different ways. So if it's not working in the way you want, give it a little bit of time and you'll see how you can customize this thing. I do want to say many thanks to Sweetwater for sending this over and for sponsoring the video. However, just as always, all the opinions in this video are my own. And if you do decide that this is something that's right for you, there are purchase links to purchase from Sweetwater down below in the description. That's enough of the intro. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, and let's go ahead and get started. So first, let's go over some of the inputs and outputs that it has. It has 4 combo jacks for 1/4 inch or XLR inputs. Really nice that it has XLR or 1/4 inch, so you can use it with microphones or guitars or whatever you want. It does have an aux input here as well, but that's only used for playing audio. It doesn't work with any of the effects or the looper in here. For the outputs, you have 2 1/4 inch outputs and 2 XLR outputs. Also very nice that you have options, and I'll show you how to do multiple different routings for the inputs and outputs later. You also get a headphone out, which can be great, especially for like in your monitors to listen to a click track or something like that. You have an expression pedal input, which I'll show you how to use later. You also have MIDI in and out. You can control this with MIDI, which I'll also demo in this video. You also do have an SD slot if you need more storage than what's already in the device itself. And then you have a USB-B and USB-A slot. USB-B port is for importing and exporting different files from your computer, but also you can receive digital audio from your computer with this as well. USB-A slot is used for extra storage and also to receive MIDI. So we'll go ahead and power it up, and a little bit about the controls that you get. So you have this encoder over here, and you can push in on this to get to one of the main screens to do all of the editing and programming on this. And then this is the screen for when you're live looping. You can either get to that screen by pushing in on the encoder, and then you can use the encoder to select what you want to go to. But also, the screen is also a touch screen. So I can click up here and get to the same menu, and then go to like the mixer tab, for example, if I wanted to. So you can see if I want to go to a parameter, like I want to adjust the tempo, I can click it and then use the encoder to make some adjustments. And then you always have this back button up here as well. Over here, you have the input gain for all 4 of your inputs. So you want to set your levels accordingly. You also have separate level controls for the main output, the headphone output, and the aux input. And next up, you have the 8 main buttons, which is what I'm going to show you next. Just so you know, this is going to be just a basic start of it. You get to customize a ton of stuff in this device and make it work the way you want it to. So if it's not working exactly how you want, just give it a second and I'll show you how to configure it. Pretty simple. Up here, you have the 4 tracks and you can choose which track you want to go to. Then you can record, play, overdub that track. Stop all tracks with this button, and then mode and function, I'll show you a little bit more here in a little bit. Let's say I go to track 1, hit record, it's recording. You can see that the encoder and the track are red, meaning that it's recording. Press it again, now it's in overdub, and then press it again, and it's playing. And I can cycle between overdub and playing. Red is record, orange is overdub, and green is playing. Go to track 2, and hit record. Go to track 3, hit record, and so on and so forth. I will do an audio demo here soon. The stop button does stop all of the tracks, actually. If you want to mute a track, you actually push this mode button, and now you can see that it turns into mute mode, and now I can mute track 4, track 3, track 2, and so on and so forth. You get the indicator from the light as well as on the screen as well. If I want to clear a track, I can go to track 3, for example, and hold the play button, and it'll clear it. That will undo as well. If I created multiple loops, I only did one on that one. And if you want to clear all the tracks, you just hold the stop button, and all the tracks are cleared. If I have multiple layers on a track, so you can see I recorded 3 different layers on track 1. Now if I hold this first button, it will undo the last layer that I did. Although later I am going to show you peel, which is a really cool option that I really like that they did in here. Well, that's basically it. Let me give you just a quick demo. So the first thing you want to do is you want to set your levels. So I'm going to adjust the main output, what's going into my computer for recording for this video. And this is plugged into input 1, so I'm going to adjust the level to make sure that it's set properly. So when I'm ready to record, I'm going to go to track 1 and push record. Push it again, now it's an overdub, push it again, and now it's just playing. I'm going to push track 2, hit record. I missed one of the notes, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it to clear it. I'm going to undo that and try again. That one was much better. Let's go to track 3, arm track 3, and then push record when I'm ready to record. This loop is a masterpiece. No one steal it from me. It's so good. Push the mode button, and now I'm in mute mode, so I can mute some of the tracks. Push stop to stop all of the tracks. I can unmute them and push play again. And I can hold the stop button in order to clear all of the tracks. Pretty straightforward. You'll notice that each loop was only 1 bar, and that's because of the way that I have it programmed. You are able to customize this, and that's what I'm going to show you now. Okay, so first of all, one of the things you can do for customizing is you can name these tracks instead of just track 1, track 2, track 3, and track 4. So you can click it and then give it a name. So I could call this like drums. I can call track 2 verse, 3 is chorus, 4 is keys, just as an example. I'm going to load up one of the loops that I made here really quickly, and you can see that I did this for another loop that I did off screen. Now you might notice that it actually looks different now. So there's 3 different display modes that you can be in. So first one is track, which is what you saw, and when I push play, you can see it looks like this. I personally prefer wave. Wave actually makes the most sense because I like being able to see the transients. That kind of helps. And I get to see where I am in the loop. And yes, you can see that the first one is a different length than the other 3 because you can do that on this device. And the third option is mixer mode, which is right here. And you can adjust the mix of your instruments with this, which can definitely be helpful. I just personally prefer wave view. That's my mode of choice. But mixer view can definitely be helpful because again, you can adjust the level of the loop, so that can be pretty helpful. You can solo and mute and do things like that. Again, just make the decision that works best for you. Something else that's really cool is you can actually hold the mode button, and now down here on these bottom 3, you have track, wave, and mixer mode. So if I wanted to jump to track mode, I can do that. Hold mode button again, switch back to wave mode, and so on and so forth. So you can switch between the screens, which is also very helpful. But for most of this video, I'm going to demo it in wave view. I also can click this button right here, and I can load in one of the built-in loops or something like that. So there's a bunch of different drum patterns and stuff in here you can import. You also can load it from loops that you have with this internal menu right here, and I'll show you that later in the video. But I'm going to go ahead and just clear this out really quick. I'm going to go to the menu and click new loop and just remove everything that I did. And now we're on basically a blank preset starting from scratch. I'm going to hold mode and switch it back to wave mode because that's the one that I like. I can also click down here to the tempo, and I can use the encoder to set the tempo to the tempo that I want it to be. Remember, I can change the names of the tracks, but the big part that I want to go over is the looping modes down here. Right now it's in sync mode. I can click that, and it'll show me the 5 different options of modes that I can get to. First mode is multi-mode. Those are 4 different loopers locked to the same length. This is the mode that Ed Sheeran uses when he performs live. Sync is the one that I like to use a lot. It's 4 different tracks that can have different lengths. So you have one primary track, so when you record a track, the other 3 tracks can be that same length or a multiple or a division of that initial loop. Very, very cool. And I prefer that actually. Song mode is all 4 loops will play independently. So you could have like verse, chorus, bridge, bridge and outro or something on all 4 different loops. I'd imagine you would want to use some pre-recorded loops in that case, but very cool that you have that as an option. Band mode is actually one of my favorite modes, and I use this quite a bit too. It's a mixture of sync and song mode, so you have one primary track, track 1 usually, and then the other 3 tracks will play independently. I use this all the time where I'll put down a drum loop in track 1, and then track 2 will be the verse with 1 chord progression, and then track 3 will be the chorus with a different chord progression. And I'll demo that here in a second. Very, very cool. I really like that mode. And then free is just completely unsynced if you want to do some crazy ambient performances and stuff like that. And also just keep in mind, you can access these by holding the mode button, and you can see I have access to the main 4 up here, multi-sync, song, and band mode. So if I wanted to go to song mode, now I am in song mode. And you can see that it says that down here in the bottom right. Hold it again. If I want to go to band mode, now I'm in band mode. Extremely helpful for setting this up, especially on the fly, that you don't have to go down to the looper. You can do it all from your feet. You also can get to this menu by going to the main menu, go to loop settings, and then looper mode. So I'm going to load up a track here really quick. This one is in sync mode. You can see that the drums were just 1 bar, and then everything else was 4 bars. So when I push play, you can see that all 4 of the tracks run together. I'll give you a sound demo here in a minute, but just notice that all 4 of the tracks can play simultaneously, and they are different lengths. Now I'm going to load a different one that I did for the song I Miss You by Blink-182, and this one is in band mode. And you can see that right now the drums and the verse are playing together, but the chorus is grayed out because the chorus has a different chord progression. So now I'm going to arm the chorus, and I'm going to push play, and you'll see that it switches now. The chorus and the drums are playing, but the verse is not playing. That is band mode. For me personally, I mostly use sync mode and band mode, but do which one works best for you and your needs. It's very customizable, but it can get even more customizable than that. So go to your settings and click Loop Settings. So first of all, you can set the tempo here as well, and you can also change your time signature if you're doing something other than 4/4. So you have the click and the click count in. So first of all, for the click count in, you can set 1 bar count in, or you can set 2, 3, or 4 bars if you want. I'm going to set it to 1, which is what I usually do. Now the click, you can either have the click track off, you can have it only going while you are recording a track, you can have it only doing a click track when you record the first layer, which is actually what I like, and I'll demo that for you here in a second. Or you can just have it always going. The click track basically just goes whether you're recording or playing. I personally like record first layer with a 1 bar count in, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to push record. It gives me a count in. I'm going to play my loop. And now it is just playing back. It only enables the click when you're recording that first layer. Very, very cool. That's the one I prefer, but again, do what works best for you. Next up, we have the looper modes, which I just went over. Now, the next one with track length and quantize, this actually depends on the mode that you're in. So if you're in multi-mode, you can go here, and you can assign all of the tracks to be a specific length. So I'm going to set this to be a 2-bar length. Now what happens is when I hit record, it counts me in. I'm going to record a 2-bar loop. And it automatically recorded that. I didn't have to push the button again. It knew that I wanted to record a 2-bar loop, and it stopped after 2 bars. Very helpful, so you don't have to pedal dance if you know that you're already going to do a 2-bar loop. But let's go here and let's change it to sync mode. And now you can choose what you want the length of each of the tracks to be. So I can have track 1 be 1 bar, track 2 be 2, track 3 be 4 bars, and then track 4 I can just let it be more free. So let me go ahead and load up Bad Touch, which is a song that I loop when I do cover sets. You can see that the drum loop is only 1 bar, but then the verse, chorus, and this extra track are both 4 bars long. Here's another one for my original music where I just made them all 4 bars because I need all of them to be 4 bars. The one for I Miss You is the same idea. 1 bar drum loop, 4 bars for the verse, 4 bars for the chorus, and so on and so forth. And if you don't see that, just FYI, go under your settings, go to global settings, and under general, scroll down here and enable bars and layers count. You want to have that on, and then you will see it. Now, quantize, you can set to different intervals, 1 bar, half a bar, quarter note, or eighth note. I'm going to set it to 1 bar because this is the easiest to explain. So watch what happens when I push play. Now watch what happens when I push overdub just a tiny bit before the loop begins. It turns white, and then it goes into overdub mode on the downbeat. With quantizing on, it doesn't automatically start recording. It waits until whatever I set the quantize to, in this case 1 bar. So let me show you an example. I'm going to push the overdub button early, do a bunch of noise. You'll see that it doesn't record, and then I'm going to record the loop, and I'm going to stop it early, and you're going to see that it keeps recording until it's done. I'm going to hit overdub. It won't record while it's in white, and it will start recording when it's in orange. Now it's recording or overdubbing. I'll switch to play mode early. Still recording. And now it's playing, and you'll hear that it played everything that I recorded. Does that make sense? If you don't want any of those features, you just want it to automatically start recording and automatically stop recording when you push the button, turn quantizing off. I actually personally like it on, just so I don't have to be as 100% accurate with when I step on the pedal. Next up, one shot and decay. So you can set any of the tracks to just go through one time. So if I set track 1 to be a one shot, let me mute the other tracks. Push play, it plays through, and then it stops. That's mostly valuable if you have like pre-recorded loops in here, I think. This feedback decay, this is what the manual says. I honestly didn't understand how you would use this. If you know how or what reason you would want to use something like that, please leave a comment down below. So next up is the time stretch, sync audio to tempo and time stretch. I think you want both of these on, to be honest. So I'm going to go to this bad touch loop, push play, and I'm going to start changing the tempo. You'll see that it changes tempo and it stays in pitch. You speed it up or slow it down. Now if I go in here and I turn off time stretch, you'll hear that it changes pitch as I change the tempo. I definitely don't want that. I mean, maybe some of you do, but I personally want those settings on. And then sync to tempo, if you disable sync to tempo and I start trying to change this, it doesn't change anything with the audio. So I personally want both of those on. And the last setting for customizing your loop settings is you can customize the pedal mode. So the mode pedal, what do you want it to do? Do you want it to load mute, or do you want it to, for example, load the tuner? So now when I push mode, it loads up the tuner that's built into here. Or I can load up the effects, or I can hit custom, so I can set up a custom layout. So I can click that the A button I want to assign to fade, B button I want to assign to song mode, third button to assign to speed, so on and so forth. When I save that, now when I push mode, it gets me to my exact screen. Very, very helpful that you can assign the mode button to do whatever you would like it to do. Pretty cool. So those are all the loop settings for customizing each of the loops to be the way that you want it to be. And remember, you can save these loops as well. So you have different songs, all with different loop modes, lengths, and stuff like that. Extremely customizable. So next up, we also have a tuner with a really nice large display showing you where you are in tune. And also you can get to this menu by pushing the function button, and the upper left A button will load the tuner as well. Next up, we have the effects. So this comes with all sorts of effects that you can put on for drums, vocals, keys, guitar. There's so many in here. I wouldn't be able to show you all of it. I'm just going to show you some of these. Let me just remove the ones that I have in here, and let's listen to just the drums. Also, you can get to your effects also by pushing the function button, and you can push this B button in order to get to effects. So I'm going to assign something to the drum patch right here. If you set it to pre, it will add the effects to your loop, and it's going to record that to that loop. If you set it to post, it will add the effect after it has been recorded. So I think most of the time you're going to want pre, but for this demo, I'm going to set it to post because I've already made the loop and I want you to hear some of the effects. You have all sorts of different effects in here. It's crazy how many effects you have, but this is a drum one. So I'm going to click drums and I'm going to choose a preset, and you can start to hear how some of these sound. If I'm happy with this one, I can select it, and let's say I want to adjust the settings on the reverb or the delay. Let's set it to a eighth note triplet delay or something like that. Let me do one over this bass pattern right here. FYI, the bass was recorded on my guitar, and I used the pitch shifting in the Sheeran Looper in order to get that bass tone. So this one is capable of doing pitch shifting so that you can record a bass line, which is very, very cool. Let's go to the effects for the verse. Let's just choose some of these lo-fi ones. I'm going to set it to post because I already recorded it, so you can hear the effects that are being sent to it. And let's start making some edits. Pretty cool effects. If I want to bring in the distortion, I can enable it here and then start making edits to that distortion patch. Just FYI, it is a little bit limiting. You can't rearrange the order of it. You pretty much get all of these, and then do you want them or do you not want them? But I find them to be very, very useful, especially that makes it so this can be your only pedal as well. You don't need any extra processing, depending on what you're trying to do, of course. That is really, really cool. And remember, I can get to the effects menu with my feet, pushing the function button. I can either push track B with my feet or the touch screen. And now I can enable or disable some of these effects as well, because you can see that the color is purple now. So I can turn on and off the effects. But what's really cool is you can push this pedal assign button right here. And now I can say, what do I want to enable and disable on the effects? And on the guitar, I've assigned the pedal assign to turn on and off just the modulation. So now when I push this button, the modulation is enabled. You can see that the light is bright. If I want to turn on and off the modulation and the amp, I can do that as well. Or all four of these effects, turn those on and off. Or I can just set it to turn on and off all of the effects with this button. Very, very cool. A lot of customization on here, and the fact that you get so many effects and you can enable them or disable them with your feet makes it very valuable, and you could have this be your entire setup. Pretty sweet. On top of that, you also can assign an expression pedal to work with any of these effects. So I can click this expression pedal assign right here. You get 4 different parameters that you can control with it. If I want to control something on the guitar channel, for example, I can choose one of these, all of these effects in here. So like the master level or the delay or whatever I want to do. But I think for an easy demo, I'm going to assign this to be the volume of the verse channel right here. So I'm going to select that. And now you can see when I move this, it controls the volume of the verse. You can choose your minimum and your maximum here as well. So let's set it up to 100%, 0 to 100%. So you can control it with an expression pedal as well. So everything that we just did for customizing the loops, effects, all of that stuff, you can save all of these and load them up later as well. So you can click here and you can go to save loop. So this was a previous one that I saved. If it was a new one, it's basically going to look like this, and I could call it whatever I want, and I can save the patch. If you want to recall it, you can go to the loop manager right here, and you can see all of the loops that I have saved on this device. And I can load up a song if I want to. So let's go to Bad Touch and hit load, and it loads up exactly how I saved it. All of the settings and all of the effects that I save. However, you also can do this with your feet. Push the function button, push load, and then you get to see all of the songs that I have saved. I can bank up or bank down. So let's say I want to load I Miss You. Click that, and now I Miss You is loaded. Keep in mind, I've saved all of the loops that I've made in here just for demoing the video. When using this live, it's all going to be blank, but I'm going to live loop it, and I have all of my track lengths and loop modes assigned for those songs. That's the way that I would do it live. I just have it pre-recorded just because I'm doing a YouTube demo. But yeah, let's go ahead and load Cellophane Blindfold. This is one of my original songs from my original music. I'll link to it down below if you want to check it out. Again, just a demo that I put together, but now I can load up that one. And also, if you're happy with your work, you also can push function and you can push save in order to save it. It doesn't give a, are you sure you want to save it? So just make sure you're aware that you don't accidentally do that. And it might not be a bad idea to make some backups. If you ever want to do a new loop, you can go in here and you can go to new loop, and it basically starts you off from scratch. But I'm going to reload Bad Touch and set it back to wave mode. And you can see that it has saved everything that I have saved on that song. If I load up another one of my originals, Free Flow, You can see all the names, the track length, the style, the tempo, all of it is saved per loop. Very, very helpful. You can also click your storage here and you can see how much storage, how much you've used up and how much you have left. You get 5 gigs, but remember you can expand on it if you need an SD card, if you need more storage. But you can also transfer files to and from the Sheeran Looper. So you can add your own loops, you can save them to your computer, import, export, and to do that, you go down here to click transfer. Make sure that you've connected that USB-B port to your computer. You'll see the Sheeran Looper X show up on your computer. Now you can start importing or exporting. So under the loops, you can see all the ones that I've made. So if I want to save what I've done for Bad Touch, I can copy that out here. You can also change some of your effect presets, which you can send to people or something like that. Here's the audio. So let's say that I have super awesome drum loop at 123 beats per minute. I can drop that into the audio tab. And now I can import that as one of the loops. And also you have a spot for backing tracks, which I'm also going to show you next. You can see that I've imported 4 different songs that I can use for backing tracks because the Sheeran Looper can also play backing tracks if you wanted to. So when you're done, hit disconnect. And then remember how I can push this plus button and I can load up some of the built-in loops that it has. Now I can go to internal and you can see that super awesome drum loop is saved into here and I can put it wherever I would like. Very cool. Don't forget to back up anytime you have something that you really like. So like I mentioned, you can also import backing tracks into this. So you can go here to the main menu and go to backing tracks. Or you can also hold the function button and push this 4th foot switch right here and it loads up the backing track player. So I can scroll through them and I can push play. Yes, I did just rickroll you. I can switch to another song. I can fast forward by holding this button. And so on and so forth. You also can click up here if you want to scroll to find a specific backing track. It's really cool that they included that as an option. I like that. Okay, next up we have the way to route the audio in the Sheeran Looper. Because remember, you have so many different inputs and outputs in here, and there's so many ways to route them. So go to under your audio routing setting. And the first one I'm going to do is track. I think that makes the most sense. So you can see that the way that I have this one recorded, I have drums going in on track 1. Guitars are on track 2, keys are on track 3, and all of my bass I recorded onto track 4. That's one way that you could think about how to do this. I think it's a good example, but again, apply it to whatever applies to you and your needs. So let's go under the audio routing, and let's say that I want the drums to come in only on input 1, the guitar only on input 2, the keys only on input 3, and then the bass is also only on input 2 because I use the pitch shifter in the Sheeran Looper. And then 4 could be like my vocals, so I don't want it to accidentally record vocals while I'm looping a guitar part or something like that. That's extremely helpful, so I can be singing while I'm recording a guitar part, and it won't record the vocals, it will just record the guitar. That's really cool. You also can choose how you want to output each of the tracks, each of the 4 different tracks. So track 1, I can just route output 1. Track 2, I can route in stereo, out 3 and 4. Same with the keys, and the bass only goes out output 2, and so on and so forth. See how customizable this is? Pretty crazy. So right now I'm plugged into output 3, which is the XLR left output. So I push play, you can hear the guitar and the keys. But if I disable them, you can no longer hear it. Or if I route the drums just out output 3, now you can hear it. If I route it just output 4, now you can't hear it. Lots of customization that you can do here. I also can say if I want to route it to the headphone out. So if I do want it to the headphone out, I'll enable it. If not, I will disable it. Something else really cool is you can route just the click track out only a certain output as well. So 1, 2, 3, or 4, or just to the headphone out. So if you just want the click track to go to like in your monitors or something like that, you can route it just to the headphone out. And of course, you can also route the backing tracks. They only give you the option in stereo, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and the headphone out, whichever ones you want on and which ones you want off. It's so customizable. That is really helpful, especially with looping if you want to like process the drums separate from the way that you process the guitar, for example. Really helpful. This live signal, this is odd. I'm not sure why you would not want this on auto. So if you want to mute the live signal as it's going in, but it'll still record it, I'm confused as to why you would ever really use that. Again, if you know an example of how you would use it, everyone loops slightly differently. Please leave a comment down below. I didn't see a reason why you would want to use that personally. Next up is we have the output levels. So you can adjust the output I can adjust how loud that output is going. Again, this is helpful if you have multiple different tracks, or the way that you loop is the drums are on one, the keys are on another one, and then you can adjust the level of those outputs. So it's pretty helpful. Don't forget you also have your master main output volume right here. And here's your inputs as well. This is what's going into it, not the loop itself. So think of the input as the live signal going in. The track is what has been recorded, or how you want to lay out the 4 tracks. And then the output is, well, obviously the output. I can say if I want the live input signal to go to my headphones, even though in my opinion, I wouldn't really use that because the track as I'm recording already goes to like my headphone output. But if for some reason you didn't want to hear the track, but only wanted to hear like the live feed go to your ears or something like that, you can enable that here. You can also route the dry signal to go to one of the outputs as well. That's what this means. You also can stereo link them as well on the input. So if you do want to have 2 stereo signals instead of 4 mono signals, you also have that as an option here. Okay, now we're going to go over what the function button does. Some of this we've already gone over. So like I can load a certain loop that I have saved. I can get access to the tuner. Also, just FYI, I can choose the input select with my foot as well. So if like my vocals are going in on 4, I don't want it to listen to that. So I can set it to just input 1. I can also get access to my effects and turn them on or off with my feet, which I also went over. We haven't gone over some of these yet. So to clear a track, normally what I'd have to do if I wanted to clear the keys, I go to track 3, push play, and hold it, and then it clears that track. The thing is it has to kind of start the track, and it takes a minute for it to delete that. Not the end of the world, but I can go to function, clear track, and then choose the track that I want to delete, and now track 2 is completely gone. Whether it's stopped or playing, it just deletes it automatically. That can be very helpful. You can also just clear all without having to hold the stop button, which can also be helpful, although I usually find myself holding the stop button just to clear everything. Now, peel is very interesting. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna record a quick loop with multiple layers. I'm gonna do that off screen. I think you get how to loop. But you can see my masterpiece has 6 layers to it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go with function, peel, and I'm gonna start peeling back the layers that I recorded. So I'm going to push on track 1. Now it's gotten rid of layer 6 and just keeps layer 5. Push it again. Now it's just layer 4, layer 3, layer 2, which was just a very basic one, and layer 1. So I can peel it back like an onion and get rid of all the previous loops that I did. Although there isn't a way to bring that back in, I'd love to see that in like a future update, if that's possible. That's really cool. Do just keep in mind once you save a loop, so let's say, for example, I'm going to load up Free Flow, which had like 6 different layers of guitars. You can see once you save it, it saves it as just 1 layer. So I can't peel back the layers after I've recorded and saved it. So if I try to peel it back, it would just erase the loop. So just in the same way that I can hold the mode button, I can also hold the function button, and I get access to more options as well. All of these different ones. Bounce is if you want to move one track to another track. I personally don't see much use in that. Here's what it says in the manual. Pause the screen if you want to find out about it, but I'm not personally going to use it. Now, multiply is a cool option. When I go to multiply, what I can do is I can cut the loop in half. This actually does this for all the loops, but instead of 4 bars, it is now cut it down to just 2 bars. Let me reload Free Flow, so we're back to where we were. And I can also multiply and I can double it. So now instead of 4 bars, it has doubled the loop so that it is 8 bars. So you can see as it's playing. That's normally where it would stop, but it has doubled it and made it an 8-bar loop. Let's load a different song. This is another one of my originals, Cellophane Blindfold, just so we don't have to listen to the same song over and over again. Speed is interesting because you can cut it in half or double it, but it changes the pitch. So when I double it, it chipmunks it. Put it back to normal, or cut it in half and then it makes it just super slow. That's definitely a special effect since it changes the pitch, but the option is there. I also can get access to the backing tracks, which I showed you earlier. Now reverse, I can choose which track I want to reverse. So track 3, that marimba, is now reversed. Set it back to normal, or I can reverse all of it. Pretty cool for some trippy effects. You can also hit fade, and you get to choose your fade rate. So let's say I want it to be a little bit longer, and you can actually see that the length of the fade out is written underneath them, which is really helpful. Let's say I want to fade out track 3, which is that marimba. It's faded out, and I can also fade it back in as well. I can also fade all of it. And now it's faded out, and I can push it again and fade it back in. So you can fade the tracks at whatever length of time you would like as well. Definitely very helpful. And last but not least, transpose is pretty cool. So I can choose which tracks I want to transpose. So the drums are on track 2, so I don't need to transpose those. So let's just go to the other 3, anything that has pitch. I'm going to enable that, and I'm going to go up by 2 semitones. So now that it's enabled, you can hear the pitch changes live. But you could set this to off, and then set it up to go up a third, and then when you're ready, you push the button and it just jumps up and does a key change. And now you have a key change and you don't have to hear it go up chromatically as you are pitch shifting. Pretty cool. All right, we're getting towards the finish line. Next is global settings, which is under this menu right here. So you can choose the logic. Do you want it to be record, dub, and then play? Or do you want it to be record, play, and then overdub? It's record, dub, play by default, but you can change that. That is a global setting. I would love it if they could do that per loop, like it is under the loop settings. That'd be pretty cool. So next up, when you hold the record and play pedal, do you want it to either undo the record or do you want to set it to peel? Now that we understand what peel does, this is actually what I'm going to set it to. I would rather choose the track that I want and then begin to peel it, not just undo. But again, choose which works best for you. If you hold the track pedal, so either 1, 2, 3, or 4, do you want to overdub arm or would you like to clear the track? I'm personally going to set this to clear the track. That's what I think works best for holding it. So now when I just hold a track, it just clears it. It's a lot faster to clear a track. After you do the bounce, do you want to delete the audio or keep the audio? I don't plan to use bounce much anyways, so whatever works. You can adjust the brightness of the screen. Remember to turn these on, bar and layers count. And then the show mixer click and backing track. That just means when you're in mixer mode, you get access to adjust the level of the click and the backing track. I have those on for sure. Audio, you can turn on phantom power, and you also have a ground lift. Your 1/4-inch output, are you doing it a line level output or are you going into an amp, for example? And then the tuner output, do you want it to go nowhere? Do you want it to be completely muted? Or do you just want it to go to like your headphones or something like that so you can hear it? USB audio, you can enable that and you can connect this to your computer. I'll put some info on the screen so you can find out more if you want to use this with your computer so you can send audio to it. And then last but not least, we have MIDI because I am going to show you how to control this with MIDI. So you can enable MIDI clock send and receive if you want, and you can choose the source. I'm not really going to do that on this, but mostly what I'm going to do is show you how to control it with MIDI. So you can enable MIDI through if you do plan to daisy chain, go MIDI into this device and then send MIDI out to something else. But the most important thing is to enable external MIDI control and then choose the channel that you want the Sheeran Looper to receive MIDI commands on. I'm going to set it to MIDI channel 7. Just FYI, this is not a video about how to program MIDI. If you need help understanding MIDI, I do have a video going over that. So the Sheeran Looper X does respond to MIDI commands. So you can see you can control all of these different commands in the Sheeran Looper. So for example, the volume of track 1 can be controlled with MIDI CC 14, track 2 with 15, so on and so forth. Again, if you don't know what that means, watch my video on MIDI. The main one that I'm interested in right here are the MIDI notes to control certain things in the Sheeran Looper. So for this demo, I've connected my Luminite Graviton M2. I really love this MIDI controller. It works really well. I have a video going over it, but it is connected to the MIDI in on the Sheeran Looper. And the way that I have this programmed, these first 3 buttons are going to mute track 1, 2, and 3. So you can see it mutes track 1, mutes track 2, and mutes track 3, and also unmutes them as well. So that can be easy instead of having to go to mode to mute. That can be helpful. This next one I have programmed to load effect 1. So instead of having to go to function and effect, you can see that I am turning on and off effect 1 with this button. Could save you some steps if you need to do it quicker. I have this one assigned as a quick clear everything. I don't have to hold anything or go to any other menus, just a quick clear button. And this one is a fade all button. So you can see it fades it in. and also fades it out. So if you need quicker access to control a looper, you can do that with MIDI, and that way you don't have to go into some of the sub-menus. Can be pretty helpful. And last but not least, you can update the firmware by clicking this and connect it to your computer. They do have a video on the Sheeran Looper YouTube channel showing you how to do that. It is quite easy. And the last thing I want to point out is just keep an eye on your CPU meter up here. If it gets full, you're going to get like clicks and pops and stuff like that. And that can happen if you overload it. So you can see the CPU meter up here. So as the song's playing, and you can see if I add some more effects to some of the channels, it's going to add more. But once I start removing those, it's going to have less CPU. So just keep an eye on your CPU meter if you're doing a lot of stuff in here. So for the price, as of the time of shooting, it's currently listed at about $1,300, and you can find links to purchase it on Sweetwater using the links in the description or the QR code on your screen. If you don't need all of those features and all of that stuff, and you're looking for a more simple looper, and you're still watching this video somehow, they do also have the Sheeran Looper Plus pedal, which is a 2-button looper, and that one's only $300. And I also have a dedicated video on that product as well. But again, purchase links to purchase from Sweetwater will be available down below in the description. And just FYI, they also released some Sheeran Looper speakers as well. Some of them are battery powered, some of them aren't. So they have different bundles if you want to check those out as well, if you need to get a speaker. But all the details will be down below in the description. All right, you made it to the end. So that's basically everything that the looper is capable of. If you made it to the end of this video, I'm assuming you found it helpful. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. It's a free way to support the channel. This video took forever to put together, and it definitely does help support the channel, feed the YouTube algorithm gods, and all that good stuff. So I would appreciate it. There's a couple of limitations I found with this. First of all, make sure your firmware is updated, because on the old firmware, there was a massive glitch if you tried to turn on quantizing that would cause the audio to glitch. So make sure that you've updated the firmware. My least favorite thing about this is the way that it changes in band mode and how it kind of tries to sync up. So if I push play on this track, you'll see it starts to play. And if I want to switch to the chorus, but if I step on it slightly early, why would it not wait till the end of the loop to switch that? Why on earth would I ever want to switch like that? I have to wait till it's actually on the downbeat in order to switch. Let's see, if I switch in the middle, it goes to the beginning. Why? I don't understand the logic of why they would have it set up this way, especially with quantizing. That's by far my least favorite thing about this, and I hope they fix that in a firmware update. Another thing that some people might not like is that there's not really a way to stop the tracks. Instead, it's more mute the tracks as it's playing. Just something to be aware of. It's not a pro or a con. It's just something for you to be aware of to make sure that it fits with your needs. Especially with a piece of gear this advanced, you're going to want to be familiar with how to use it inside and out, so just give it a bit of time when you use it. In future firmware updates, I would love to see some more updates, but where it's at right now even is pretty sweet, all the things that it can do. I am a live looper with my original music. I do some cover stuff too, but with my original music, I just released a new album. My original music is called Spiral Cell, but I'm in the process of reprogramming the live show for that album. It's a stupid complicated, there's like dialogue and a story and lights that sync up to it and stuff like that. I'm in the process of putting together the new show, and this is one of the loopers I'm looking at into incorporating into the new live shows. So I'm going to keep trying it out. I'm going to see which setup works best for me. But again, many thanks to Sweetwater for saying this over for me to check out. And there are purchase links down below in the description to purchase from Sweetwater if you do decide this is right for you. If you're looking for a more simple and smaller and battery powered looper, check out the video that I did on the Sheeran Looper Plus. And then you can also check out my most recent video by clicking the links on your screen now. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at ScottYulMusic. If you have any other cool gear recommendations you want me to check out, please leave them as a comment down below. Again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.